Buddha is the greatest teacher who walked on the earth. His contribution to the humankind is unparalleled. He gave up all pleasures to find out the cause for suffering of the humankind. He succeeded in finding out not only suffering and its cause, but also the way to end all sufferings. He found out true meaning and purpose in life. Out of boundless compassion for all beings, he decided to teach this truth to the world and help all of the humankind. The greatness of the Supreme Master is, he taught that everyone could become enlightened and become totally free from suffering and enjoy life in a true way. His message is a formula for success in every field, both here and hereafter. We are delighted to present you some of his valuable sayings, which we feel can relieve you from tensions, worries, stress, and dissatisfaction. 2550 years after Buddha preached, the world today is in need of his tender touch of compassion more than ever. Let it be at any level, personal, family, national, or international. One is seeking peace and happiness without knowing the way. That is why one is at crossroads in confusion. The Buddha's teachings are like guiding light, giving clear direction to ultimate happiness. Tripitaka is a collection of words of Buddha coming directly from the holy lips of the enlightened Master. Here we present you some of the sayings from this collection. We hope you will be benefited immensely. Buddha places immense importance on mind. He is the first teacher to explore the mysteries of the mind and to expound freely to one and all. His teachings are mind-centered and not God-centered. Since mind is everything, and happiness, peace, joy, suffering, etc. are felt in the mind, he says it is necessary to know the mind, to change the mind, and to free the mind. It is so near, but so unknown. It is so active, but so much neglected, but so much underestimated. If the mind is at peace, there is no place where there is no happiness.
By mind, the world is led. Mind is chief. Everything is mind-made. If one acts or speaks with impure mind, suffering follows him like the wheel of the cart following hoof of the ox. But if one acts or speaks with pure mind, happiness follows him like his never-separated shadow. By mind, the world is led. By mind, the world is moved. And all good and bad things exist in the world because of mind. Neither mother, father, nor any other relative can do one greater good than one's own well-directed mind. Whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy, a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind can do far greater harm to oneself. Real peace appears within when mind is free from defilements. External objects do not provide peace. A fool who knows his foolishness is wise at least to that extent. But a fool who thinks himself wise is called a fool indeed. O disciples, whatever states are unwholesome, partake of unwholesome, pertain to the unwholesome, all these have the mind as their forerunner. Mind arises as the first of them, followed by the unwholesome states. O disciples, whatever states are wholesome, partake of the wholesome, pertain to the wholesome, all these have the mind as their forerunner. Mind arises as the first of them, followed by wholesome states. Wakefulness or awareness is the path to the deathlessness. Negligence is the path to death. The wakeful people do not die. The negligent are as if dead already. Wisdom never becomes perfect in one whose mind is not steady and who does not know the right teaching and whose confidence is shaky. What, O disciples, is the way of impatience? If scolded, one scolds in return. If insulted, one insults in return. If abused, one abuses in return. What, O disciples, is the way of patience? If scolded, one does not scold in return. If insulted, one does not insult in return. If abused, one does not abuse in return.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
After the formula of the threefold refuge usually follows the acceptance of the fivefold moral precepts, Panchashila. The Buddha taught that observance of Panchashila is the minimum standard needed to form the basis of a decent life and of further progress towards deliverance. They are: first, I undertake to observe the precept to abstain from killing living beings. Second, I undertake to observe the precept to abstain from stealing. Third, I undertake to observe the precept to abstain from sexual misconduct. Fourth, I undertake to observe the precept to abstain from false speech. Fifth, I undertake to observe the precept to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs causing heedlessness.
By actions, vision, and righteousness, by virtue and by noble life, beings are purified, and not by birth and wealth. Wisdom is purified by virtue, and virtue is purified by wisdom. Where one is present, so the other. The virtuous person has wisdom, and the wise person has virtue. The combination of virtue and wisdom is called the highest thing in the world. There are 5 advantages to one who practices good Shila and succeeds. What are the 5? With careful attention, he gains wealth. He gets a good reputation for morality and good conduct. Wherever one goes, he does so with confidence and assurance, without hesitation and fear. He dies unconfused and fearless. He is born in a happy state. Ananda, in whatsoever village or district there is a woman or a man who has taken refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, who abstains from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, falsehood and from intoxicants, and who is virtuous, of a lovely nature, who dwells with a heart free from the dirt of stinginess, who is open-minded, pure-handed, delighting in giving up, one who is worthy of asking help, one who delights in sharing gifts with others. About such a person, everyone, like sages and hermits, sing the praise in all quarters. So also devas and human beings sing his praise in like manner. This Ananda is the sort of scent whose fragrance goes with and against the wind alike. Among all fragrances, whether sandal, tagara, blue lotus or jasmine, the fragrance of virtue is the most sweetest. The 4 defiling actions are killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying. The 4 motivations of evil actions are greed, hatred, delusion, and fear. 6 ways of wasting wealth, health, and character are: first, addiction to intoxicating drinks, which also brings waste of money, quarrels, diseases, loss of reputation, shameful exposure, and weakening of one's intelligence. Second, roaming streets at wrong hours, like in the night. Because of this, one is unprotected. One's wife and children are exposed to danger. Properties are exposed to danger and unprotected. One is suspected of criminal acts. One is subjected to false accusations. Third, frequenting fairs and wasting money in the name of dancing, singing, music, etc. Fourth, indulging in gambling brings hatred, insult, distrust, disrespect, and bad reputation. Fifth, keeping bad friendship like with gamblers, gluttons, drunkards, crooks, pretenders, and rowdies brings loss of wealth. Sixth, habitual laziness, saying it is too cold, it is too hot, it is too early, it is too late, I am too hungry, or I am too full. This brings loss of wealth.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
The law of nature is the law of cause and effect. Due to ignorance, one creates worries. That is the wheel of suffering. By training the mind and removing ignorance, one reverses the wheel of suffering and starts the wheel of Dhamma, the truth, which leads to release from birth and death and bring all beings to Nibbana, the eternal, unchanging, everlasting bliss. In a state of supreme happiness where there is no birth, how can there be disease, old age, death, followed by sorrow, pain, grief, lamentation, misery, and despair? The heart of Buddha's teachings are 4 noble truths. These are the timeless universal truths. Enlightenment is exactly the understanding and experiencing of these truths. The Buddha said that he teaches only 2 things: suffering and how to end suffering. All the rest was not relevant for him. Realizing these truths, we too can become free from all sufferings.
As long as the absolutely true knowledge and insight as regards these 4 noble truths was not quite clear in me, so long I was not sure that I had won that supreme enlightenment, which is unsurpassed in all the world, with its heavenly beings, evil spirits, and gods, amongst all the hosts of ascetics and priests, heavenly beings and men. But as soon as the absolute true knowledge and insight as regards these 4 noble truths had become perfectly clear in me, there arose in me the assurance that I had won that supreme unsurpassed enlightenment. And I discovered that profound truth, so difficult to perceive, difficult to understand, tranquilizing and sublime, which is not to be gained by just reasoning and visible only to the wise. O disciples, it is through not understanding and not realizing the 4 truths that I, as well as you, had to wander so long through this round of rebirths. And what are these 4 truths? They are the noble truth of suffering, dukkha, the noble truth of the cause of suffering, dukkha samudaya, the noble truth of the end of suffering, dukkha nirodha, the noble truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering, dukkha nirodha gamini patipada. What, O disciples, is the noble truth of suffering? O disciples, This is the noble truth of suffering, namely, birth is suffering, aging is suffering, disease is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are suffering. Coming in contact with the disliked is suffering. Separation from the liked is suffering. Not to get what one desires is suffering. In short, mind and matter as object of clinging are suffering. With the realization, this is the noble truth of suffering, there arose in me the vision of things which were unknown till now. There arose insight, wisdom, deep knowledge, and light. What, O disciples, is the noble truth of cause of suffering? With ignorance as condition, volitional actions come to be. With volitional actions as condition, consciousness comes to be. With consciousness as condition, mind and matter come to be. With mind and matter as condition, six sense bases come to be. With six sense bases as condition, contact comes to be. With contact as condition, feelings come to be. With feeling as condition, craving comes to be. With craving as condition, clinging comes to be. With clinging as condition, one becomes. With becoming as condition, birth comes to be. With birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair come to be. Such is the arising of whole mass of suffering. O disciples, what is the noble truth of the end of suffering? The reminderless fading away and cessation of that very ignorance and craving, abandoning it, turning away from it, freedom and detachment from it. This is the noble truth of the end of suffering. O disciples, what is the noble truth of the path leading to the end of suffering? O disciples, it is the noble eightfold path, namely, right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. O disciples, this is the middle path, discovered by the Tathagata, which produces vision, arouses insight, leads to peace, to supramundane direct experience, to enlightenment, and to Nibbana.
The Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha are called the three jewels, Tiratna, on account of their matchless purity, and as being to the Buddhist the most precious objects in the world. These three jewels form also the threefold refuge, Tisarana, of the Buddhist. A Buddhist professes or reaffirms acceptance to Tisarana as the guide of his life and thought by uttering the Pali formula of refuge, which is still the same as in the Buddha's time. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to the Dhamma. I go for refuge to the Sangha. It is through the simple act of reciting this formula 3 times that one declares himself a Buddhist, which means one works for getting bodhi, that's enlightenment. Buddhism is not a religious dogma, belief, system, rite, or ritual. It simply means the path to happiness here and now, and ultimately the path to enlightenment, freedom from all sufferings. Going to the Buddha is an act of free will. It is a profound spiritual commitment. Going to the Buddha makes the unenlightened mind aspire to win enlightenment and change the entire direction of life. Most people are lost in the darkness of life's struggles. Going to the Buddha raises their minds to the light of spiritual fulfillment and to material prosperity as well. Going to the Buddha means making definite and verifiable progress here and now. Dhamma means truth, just the way things are, and the path taught by the Buddha to attain enlightenment. Following the way of Dhamma, one lives harmoniously with everything. When there is harmony with truth of life, then there is no conflict and struggle. Dhamma is the spiritual presence of the Buddha. Buddha never dies as long as this path of truth remains. Sangha is one who is enlightened, following the above Dhamma. Experience of higher states of joy, happiness, wisdom and enlightenment are possible for one and all, but one has to work. As the Buddha says, he shows the path and each individual has to put his or her effort to achieve the goal. There are so many people who have walked this path of truth and realized the truth. We need guidance from such noble Sangha for our progress.
Buddha is not a name of a person. It is a state of perfection of all good qualities of the mind. The description of one who is Buddha is that he is the perfect one, the supremely enlightened one, the embodiment of wisdom and virtue, the sublime one, the knower of all worlds, incomparable teacher for those who are ready to learn, teacher of all beings, both human and non-human, the enlightener, the giver of true blessings. The Dhamma, the qualities of the Dhamma are: it is taught by the Buddha in its totality. It is to be experienced here and now. It is timeless message. It invites for inquiry and experience. It leads only upwards. It is to be experienced by each individual for oneself. The Sangha. It is so difficult to find a person of high morality, good mind and wisdom. Those who have tasted the bliss of enlightenment are called Sangha, the holy order of enlightened disciples of the Buddha. Their qualities are: they are established on the right way to enlightenment, on the straight way to enlightenment, on the just way to enlightenment, on the proper way to enlightenment. That is why they are worthy of offerings, honor, gifts, and salutations. They are the incomparable field for our progress, and they can inspire and guide us on the path.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
A follower of the Buddha gets no room from the Buddha's teachings to hurt, to torture, or to be unkind to anyone for any reason whatsoever. Therefore, the Buddha is a true exponent of non-violence by advising his disciples to follow love and compassion as the very first precept. There is no record of spilling even a drop of blood in the name of the Buddha in 2550 years of its history. He gave practical methods to overcome anger and hatred which brings violence. To inspire disciples, he gave strong messages. He advised them to be loving and compassionate in body, speech, and thoughts. Even if the world today follows this one advice of the Buddha, it would be a heavenly life for all on this very earth.
O disciples, even if robbers and murderers cut your limbs into parts with a saw, in that situation, if you allow anger to arise, then you would not be following my advice. You should train yourself thus. Undisturbed shall our mind remain. No evil word shall escape our lips. Friendly and full of sympathy shall we remain, with heart full of love, and free from any hidden malice, and that we radiate with loving thoughts, wide, deep, boundless, freed from anger and hatred. Whatever living creatures there be, without exception, weak or strong, long or huge, middle size, short, minute or bulky, whether visible or invisible, and those living far or near, and born and those yet to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive or decry his fellow anywhere. Let none wish others harm in resentment or in hate. Just as with her own life, a mother protects her only child from hurt, so let him have a mind of boundless love for all beings. All are frightened of violence, all fear death. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill, nor cause another to kill. One who, while himself seeking happiness, oppresses with violence other beings, who also desire happiness, will not attain happiness hereafter. I extend my loving kindness to such beings as serpents that have no feet. I extend my love to those beings with 2 feet, to beings with 4 feet, and to beings with many feet. May all beings, may all those possessing life, may all sentient beings experience happiness, and may no evil come to them. Just as I want to be happy, to be ever free from suffering, even so may all beings be happy, whether friendly, neutral, or hostile. May all beings living within the limits of our city and surrounding areas, within our district, our country, indeed in the whole world, may all beings be happy always. Whosoever offends an innocent person, pure and guiltless, his evil comes back on that fool like fine dust thrown against the wind. We should treat all people with respect and sincerity. We must be responsible for our actions and be careful while speaking to avoid harming others. Even if we traverse the whole wide world with our thoughts, one finds nothing more dearly than self. In the same way, others are dearer to themselves. Let a person who loves himself never harm another person. Conquer anger by love, evil by good. Conquer the miser with generosity and the liar by truth. Happy indeed we live, friendly among the hostile people. Among hostile people, we dwell free from hatred.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
From the earliest times, man had got into the habit of emulating parents, teachers, elders, priests, kings, and leaders. Majority of men and women thought the way those leaders thought. They acted in terms of the order of those leaders. As a result of this, man's capacity to think became curbed in many ways. The Buddha appeared at a time when the society was filled with such strong traditional views and customs. In consequence, he had to bring about a powerful revolution in thought and in society. He brought this about not in the revolutionary mode of such later revolutions as French Revolution in Europe or the Russian Revolution. He did not bring about his revolutions through bloodshed, through torture, and mayhem, through murder, through compelling speeches, or by stirring the minds of people into anger. He brought about his revolution entirely through his limitless compassion, through a policy of nonviolence and peaceful means. He encouraged the spirit of inquiry and scientific temper.
A dogmatist is indeed not easy to discipline, since he holds a preconceived view, saying that the good is only there, only in what he depends upon. He speaks of purity, saying he saw reality there. If you cling to even this view, thinking the Buddha has taught it, if you fondle it, then you do not understand that the Buddha's teaching is similar to a raft, which is for crossing over and not for getting hold of it. Accept the truth wherever you find it, without any prejudice. If one's understanding is a result of faith, preference, hearsay, reasoning, or conviction, one should maintain, this is my faith, this is my preference. But one should avoid coming to conclusion, this alone is truth, all else is falsehood. Such a person safeguards the truth. An intelligent person should further strive for awakening and arising of truth. With awakening of truth, one's knowledge is verified and experienced. It is no more a view thereafter. O disciples, do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it, because they have been handed down for many generations, because it is spoken and rumored by many, because it is found written in your religious books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders, but after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it.